Hello again, fight fans, and welcome to episode 301 of the Neutral Corner Boxing Podcast. I am your host, Michael Montero, for the Ring Magazine, ringtv.com, and the Ring Digital YouTube channel, where you are watching me live right now. As always, we remind you, please make sure that you're subscribed and you click that little notification bell. And if you can't catch the live video every Monday, subscribe to whatever podcast platform that you prefer. Just go to Montero Unboxing. Just search for Montero Unboxing, the Neutral Corner, and you will find me. Subscribe, like, review, thumbs up, all that stuff. Ratings, we need all that, all right? It helps tremendously. So this is TNC 301 for the week of February 19th. I just want to remind you guys, once again, that the latest issue of Ring, this is the April issue, is out, all right? So if you are a subscriber, you should have already got this one. If not, you can go grab this, pick this up in the stores. And a few of you that have read my articles in this one have reached out. Just let me know how much you enjoy them. I appreciate that, guys. As you know, me and the wife took a little bit of a weekend off, and we chilled and just kind of got off the grid a little bit. We ended up going to a little town like 2 hours outside of Atlanta. It's kind of halfway between here and Nashville, Tennessee, right in the middle. And it's got just enough of everything you need, but it's tiny. Not too many people, so we can kind of just get away, unplug the phones. I tweeted a couple times. I posted a couple of Instagram videos, just, food and me being silly, just stuff like that. But no boxing until I got back home. And then, of course, I caught up on everything. Also, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Hope that you are with the one you love today, even if that is your right or left hand. Oh! I'll be here all week, folks. Tip your waitress. No, seriously, I hope you guys are having a great Valentine's. Me and the wife are just chilling, hanging out after our great weekend together. And it was good. I kind of recharged my batteries a little bit. I was worn out. And now I'm ready to get back into the groove of things. So let's get right into this news and notes. All right. So first, I ain't going to talk football long, but I got to bring up Super Bowl. Los Angeles Rams. I told you guys the Rams would win. Now, I thought they were going to win big. I got to give the Bengals credit. They played very, very well. They made it really, really close. 23-10 for the Rams over the Bengals. Cooper Kupp was the MVP, and I thought that was well-deserved. Aaron Donald was right there. You could have maybe gave it to Donald, but I thought that Kupp did a little bit more consistently throughout the game, and ultimately you got to put up points. And Kupp had that game-winning touchdown, right? He had also several key first downs, both running the ball and passing. And he does a lot of key blocks that helped Odell Beckham earlier in the game. So it even helped out Stafford a little bit. So 8 receptions, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I said, several key first downs, several key blocks earlier in the game when he wasn't necessarily catching balls, but he was setting up great, great blocks and picks that were helping other receivers out. That's something that you don't see in the stat columns, but it matters. And the dude's a baller. So honestly, I think that the LA Rams have the best offensive player in the league in Cooper Kupp, and they have the best defensive player in the league in Aaron Donald. So it remains to be seen if Donald's going to stick around or not, because he's getting up there in age, plays a tough position. If he does stick around, that'd be awesome. But right now, the Rams, I mean, when you have the best offensive weapon and the best defensive player in the league on your team, it's hard, or it's not that difficult. I'm going to say it's not that difficult to win the Super Bowl, but you're always going to be in a hunt is what I was trying to say. You're always going to be a threat. I got to also say this. The overall packaging of the Super Bowl and the whole halftime show and the pregame show that's like 18 hours long and the commercials, it just feels overly processed and a shell of its former glory. Now, I realize I probably sound like my dad and, just the way he ended up sounding like his dad. We all end up sounding like our parents, right? But I just feel like the Super Bowl, it's so overly processed and generic now, and it's so overly safe. And there's a lot of hypocrisy with the way that they market it and things like that. A lot of people were upset at the halftime show and some of the politics related to it. I don't really give a shit. I never really watched that. I'm not one of those guys that's like, "Ooh, look at the halftime show." I'm not that guy, okay? That won't make it somewhere on the internet. I don't give a shit, and I don't care about the commercials. That all peaked in the 90s when, like having a game-changing Super Bowl commercial, right? That hasn't happened in decades. Now it's something people tweet about for 24 to 48 hours, and then they move on. But there used to be Super Bowl commercials that literally changed companies. Like Apple, for example, was the first breakthrough Super Bowl ad where sales go up 60, 70%. I mean, things like that happened with Super Bowl ads. Now no one gives a shit. People tweet about it a little bit, but everyone has this nostalgia, and they want to make it, oh, this is just like the 85 Super Bowl, and this is just like when Prince played or Michael Jackson played in the halftime. No, it's not. Shut up. It's not. It's never going to be that again, and it's okay. This is different, but let it be what it is now. I will say this. If I could get a commercial-free and a politics-free, groveling-free, preaching-free version of the Super Bowl, I would pay for it. If there was a pay-per-view version where I didn't have to hear any of the bullshit commentary and all the politics shoehorned in, and I could skip the halftime show and skip all the woke commercials that are preaching to me and all. If I could, I'd pay $50. I'd happily pay $50 for a game that's supposed to be free here in the United States. If that ever becomes an option, I will be ordering that. All right. Anyway, guys, Trey says boomer's going to boomer, Mike. I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X. It's the boomers that have gotten us here. It's the boomers that have ruined everything, like the Super Bowl and like all forms of entertainment. And now it's just overly safe, overly generic. So real quick about the halftime show. Again, I'm not going to get into all the politics, the underlying politics and all that behind it. It's just, I do find it kind of funny that the two headliners were Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, right? These are guys in their 50s that wear jeans and talk in a vernacular that they should have grown out of in their 20s, okay? Because we all kind of talk like that. I know I sure did. But these guys are like holding on to like this act and this gimmick from their youth. And it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right when a 55-year-old dude like Dre with a beer gut and a receding hairline is rapping. The optics don't work. And they were lip syncing. They weren't even really rapping, right? And then what's funny is, all the politics right now, what's going on in the NFL, Brian Flores, his lawsuit and what it's alleging, and what's happening to Joe Rogan because of a clip that went out, a mashed up clip, taking certain things he said out of context. Dre and Snoop said what Joe Rogan said 18 billion times in their records. They talked about murdering cops. They talked about killing Whitey. They talked, Snoop's last album, the president was dead on the cover next to him. Like he had murdered the former president, like all this stuff. And no one cares, and everyone's just trying to, I don't know. It's just kind of funny. Do I give a shit? No, I don't care. One dude was in the halftime show. I didn't even know who he was. The dude with the braids. I didn't even know who that was. Someone had to tell me who he was. 50 Cent was there. He looked a little pudgy, looked a little past his prime. And again, when I'm thinking of like In the Club, like that video, right? The video for his song In the Club. He was in his physical prime. He was ripped. He was jacked. And like, that is when I picture rap, that's what I'm picturing. And now he's this pudgy dude with a gut and, his arms are kind of, I don't know what's going on there. It just, the optics don't work, dude. It's just, by the way, when they have an 80-year-old rock band like Aerosmith or something and they do the halftime show, it's the same kind of thing. The only difference is you could play an instrument for the rest of your life. So like if you are in a band, whether it's an R&B band, rock, funk, soul, whatever it is, if you're playing music and playing instruments, you can literally do that until you're 90 years old. Now, if you're trying to be this like rebellious rock star and you're 80 and you got like a beer gut and your hairline's back here, you got like a 5 head, you don't have a 4 head anymore, you have a 5 head, it just doesn't look right. You're wearing extensions or a wig or something. So like I would be saying the same shit if it was like a rock concert. It's just, I grew up on hip hop. I grew up in those communities when hip hop was really still an underground thing and exploding. So I kind of look at it almost as something that I was personally connected to when I was young. And now it's just become generic pop music. There's really no difference, you know? And to me, if you're performing in the Super Bowl, regardless of what genre of music you're in, if you're performing in the halftime show, you are a 100% corporate bought entity that has sold the fuck out. And that's everybody that did the halftime show yesterday and every year before. That's what they were. Now, you go back 20, 30, 40 years, different. But now it really is. You're just trying to, you know, you got a new project coming out or something. There's always some sort of like networking thing involved and some sort of corporation that's in charge of it all. And I don't know. I don't really give a shit about any of that. I just don't care. I just watch the game. It just has the feeling of some of the really big Vegas fights, you know, like I've talked about that before, where the super big Vegas fights, like Mayweather Pacquiao, that was the equivalent of a modern Super Bowl. That's what it was. The only difference is at least the game was good. At least we had a good game. But the feeling of it being overly corporate, and it really wasn't about the diehard fans. It really wasn't even about the game necessarily. It's about all these political agendas being shoehorned in. That's just, yeah, I'm not about that. All right, no more NFL. Let's talk about some boxing. So we got plenty of fights on the schedule right now, but nothing really gets going until March. I mean, most of the fights we have right now are just stay busy, showcase matchups, a few interesting ones in here and there. But the schedule really gets going in March, and then it really starts to heat up in April. We got some really good stuff to look forward to in April, which is great, including Erickson Lubin is going to be fighting Sebastian Fundora April 9th on Showtime. That's a great matchup, man. That's a really, really good fight between two young guys. Lubin is kind of turning into a guy that PBC uses, you know, but it's awesome. It works. He's going to go in here and he's supposed to, on paper, lose to Fundora, but put on a great, great fight. I like this matchup a lot. I'm looking forward to that fight. Speaking of PBC, Jamal Charlo, arrested in Texas again for felony charges. This coming right after he just got off for former charges he was arrested with before. Nothing will come of this. You guys always ask me, when these guys get arrested, when boxers get arrested, what's going to happen? Look, man, I can't think of many fighters in recent years who did any jail time. The last one was Floyd, and that was a slap on the wrist, right? So nothing will come of this. I really don't think so. At most, community service or something. Ryan Garcia news. Breaking. He has apparently switched trainers, left the Reynoso camp, but will stay in San Diego and work with Joe Goosen. This was like some big story over the weekend. I look at this and I just don't give a flying fuck. When it comes to Ryan Garcia and these other young American fighters, I just want to see what they do in the ring right now. I'm sick of the negotiating on Twitter. I'm sick of the TikTok videos, the trash talk, the stupid challenges they're doing on TikTok and Instagram and all this. I don't really give a shit about who they're training with and all the drama around all that. I just don't give a shit. Let's see you get in the ring and fight. Let's see what you can do. That's what I'm interested in. All right. Okay. What else we got? I think that's it for news and notes. I think so. Yeah. So we're going to move on from there, but I'm going to catch up with some of you guys' comments. Sal says 50 cent turned into $1 with this inflation. Record inflation. It's been 40-year high of inflation. Whew. Gail Falkenthal says, I enjoyed the show, but Prince is the undisputed GOAT of Super Bowl halftime shows. Yeah, just a different era, Gail. Just a different era. It was different back then. And it was, I don't know. It just had a different feel. And maybe it's just because I was young. I don't know. Maybe when you're a kid, sports is just, it's something different to you. Alistair Williams says, big sporting event is corporate in massive shocker. That's a pretty good comment. I kind of walked into that one. Let's see. Giuseppe says Twitter trash talkers. Yeah, there was a lot of that last night. There was some assholes tweeting some dumb shit that even I had to like put them on blast. Like I saw a couple. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I had to report some of these guys. But let's see. Captain Hook Chronicles said Boomer is a state of mind. Oh, okay. All right. Well, Sal says, I'll take that over Tekashi 6ix9ine. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Trust me, I hear you. But honestly, do we really need a Super Bowl halftime show? Do we really need it? Like, it's nothing. I almost look at it like the Academy Awards, the Oscars, like that kind of stuff. Like, I just don't give a shit. Just get to the game. Like, there's certain boxing events I've been to. I think it was Canelo Cotto, where they had a music act right in the middle of it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I don't get to the fight, you know? It just, not my thing. Not my thing. Oh, good comment here from George. He says, what about Kurt Sizey? Isn't he doing time still? So, okay, there's an example. Adventil Kurt Sizey. And I meant to mention this. I just forgot it. So thank you for bringing it up, man. He got arrested like in a RICO statute. This dude was involved in a crime ring. I want to say he got out recently. I thought I heard something about him getting out recently and being on probation or something, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. But yeah, that dude went to jail for some legit stuff, not some ticky-tack bullshit. By the way, I want to show real quick a poll that I did. I talked about this fight on my channel. Apparently, Canelo, and again, I emphasize this is all premature because the guy who's been reporting this has been wrong like 8,000 times in a row here because he always jumps the gun. But according to sources, anonymous sources, Canelo is close to maybe accepting a deal to fight Dimitri Bivol. It looks like this will come off because the money is so huge, right? And then he'll fight Triple G a third time. But I've been it's been interesting to see the reaction on Twitter specifically. I think a lot of the PBC stands out there really thought Canelo was going to just go hard PBC because he fought Caleb Plant. I don't think they understand the way the business works and what that was. But that's not really a surprise. Anyway, I tweeted this out, this poll here. Which fighter has done more in their career to earn a fight with Canelo? Jermall Charlo, Dimitri Bivol, David Benavidez, Demetrius Andrade. Over 5,000 people voted. Just under 40% voted for Dimitri Bivol. He was number one, followed by Jermall Charlo at over 25%. And they were clearly ahead of the other two, which I agree with. But I'm surprised Charlo got that many votes. It's really interesting to me. His resume. And again, Bivol hasn't done shit the last 2 years. I'm with you. But overall, he has a better resume than Charlo. And he's at 175. So it's more of a challenge. I mean, Charlo started at 54, fights at 60, where he hasn't done dick. His best win is Gennady Golovkin, Daniel Jacobs leftovers. And he'd be moving up again to fight Canelo at 68. Canelo's going to move up to 175 to fight Bivol. Man, that's a much tougher fight. And I'm just really surprised at the results. I thought it'd be over 50% for Bivol. But hey, it is what it is. Yeah, let's see. Gail here in the chat. It's great to have you on, Gail. She says Canelo versus Bivol gives Canelo a light heavyweight belt. He wants to unify another division. He's laser focused on this, but he doesn't have to fight. He doesn't have to fight for money. Yeah, I think, which brings me to, you know what? I forgot to mention it in my news and notes, but apparently, and this is from Bob Arum's mouth, but apparently Joe Smith Jr. and Artur Beterbiev will be unifying the other three light heavyweight belts during the spring too. So Canelo maybe in 2023 could, if he wins his 2 fights this year, he could fight the winner of that fight for all the marbles at 175. And now he has an option at 168 for a stay busy fight too, which he could introduce himself to the UK fans or fight over there. I'll get to that later. But yeah, look, if Canelo unifies 175 after unifying 168, 168 is a weak division. None of those guys are really, really good. But 75's got some good fighters. If he gets a win over Bivol, and then the Beterbiev Smith winner, those are 2 really good wins. If he can follow that up at some point with a win over, let's say if Charlo moves up and ends up fighting, I think Caleb Plant and David Benavidez are eventually going to fight. If Charlo moves up, fights the winner of that fight, and then Canelo fights the winner of that fight, man, that's a really good resume. Really, really good resume. Okay, let's move on. Let's get to fight review, because we have some controversy to talk about. Ooh, controversy. Saturday, February 12th. And Let's see. The Alexandra Place, Moosewell Hill, London. Matchroom on the zone. John Ryder, split decision over Daniel Jacobs. Scores were 115, 113 twice for Ryder, and then 115, 113 once for Jacobs. Many, if not most, felt that Jacobs won this fight. There was outrage all over boxing Twitter. So let's see here. Punch numbers, because I know you guys love them. Ryder was 135 for 448, or 30% accuracy. Jacobs was 123 of 651 for 19% accuracy. Ryder landed more power punches. Jacobs landed slightly more jabs, and I believe he landed more body punches. But overall, the power punching was from Ryder, and he was actually, strangely enough, the more accurate puncher. You wouldn't have thought that coming in. Let's see. A lot of people out there saw, and it looked like Jacobs was hurt in the 7th round. Kind of wasn't the same after that. And that's when Ryder really made a charge, very similar to the Gabe Rosado fight. And that kind of brings me full circle here, because to me, now let me give my thoughts. I thought 115, 113 for Jacobs was a good score. That's how I scored it. 7 rounds to 5 for Jacobs. I thought you could make a case for a draw. When I look at the punch numbers, yeah, Ryder landed slightly more accurate. Jacobs threw more, but wasn't nearly as accurate. But to me, the punch numbers indicate, and you don't score fights with punch numbers. I get it, guys. We've been over this 1,000 times. But the indication from those punch numbers is that it was a close fight. So 115, 113 either way, to me, isn't really bad. It just felt like if you were going to edge this fight to somebody, you should have edged it to Jacobs. It felt like he built up a big enough lead in those early rounds in the first half of the fight. He won the first half. Ryder won the second half. There's a few swing rounds in there. But when I think of the word robbery, I think of an instance where a fighter clearly won. 8 rounds, 9 rounds, out punched their opponent pretty much in every punching category. Just was the guy who clearly won the fight. Even if it was close, even if it was very competitive, he won clearly. Also, when I think of a robbery, I think of an injustice. I think of somebody getting screwed in a way that's really going to affect them in their career and their life for years to come. An example was just a couple weeks ago on that DAZN show, I think from Phoenix. That kid got robbed. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but these kids were prospects. They both had like 10, 11 fights, and a kid got flat out robbed. That is really going to affect his career. He's not going to make the same money he should be making over his next 3-4 fights. It could change his career trajectory into becoming an opponent overnight, right? Daniel Jacobs has earned tens of millions of dollars. He's going to be just fine. Not that I think it's good that these judges rendered bad scorecards. I disagree with Ryder winning. I had Jacobs winning. Again, I want to make that clear. But this felt to me like a makeup call. Okay. And this is something that doesn't just happen in boxing. This happens in all sports. It happened last night in the Super Bowl. There was a makeup call late in the fight, and the referees, the officials, the league, who I think called 4 penalties the entire game, 3-4 penalties. All of a sudden in the last 5 minutes or whatever, it felt like they called 10 penalties all of a sudden. And it felt like they were trying to extend the game and make up for calls that they had screwed up earlier, because Cincinnati got away with several penalties, several no calls. So then there was like a ticky-tack. They got this one guy on a pass interference or something like that. That wasn't a pass interference, right? Makeup call. This happens in all sports, okay? People try to act like this only happens in boxing. It happens in all sports. But if we go back a few years, John Ryder got ripped off against Callum Smith. A lot of people felt that Callum Smith lost that fight and that Ryder should have won. But Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, DAZN, they had their eyes set on a fight between Canelo Alvarez and Callum Smith. In fact, Smith's very next fight was against Canelo. And the only thing that delayed it was, I think, the COVID pandemic slowed that process down. But that was his very next fight. So everybody involved wanted Canelo Smith, or at least they were looking at that fight. And that's the fight that ended up happening. The business of boxing had its way. And Ryder was kind of getting in the way of that. I thought this fight, but Ryder and Smith was competitive, and you could say close if you give the swing rounds to Smith. But like most people, I thought Ryder won that fight. But Smith got the nod. He ends up fighting Canelo. He gets the Canelo sweepstakes and gets that big payday, all that good stuff, right? And it's a great win for Canelo at 68 because Smith had won the World Boxing Super Series tournament. He had a belt, right? It was brand building. Build Canelo on a DAZN audience with the UK audience, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you go a little bit before that. Daniel Jacobs won the Canelo sweepstakes. He fought Canelo in his first big fight on DAZN, right? They really needed Matchroom and DAZN. They needed opponents, elite opponents for Canelo. So they grossly overpaid Daniel Jacobs. I want to say he got something like $10 million for that fight, and he was not worth half that, if we're being honest. But he was the right guy, right place, right time. He had built up his name with close competitive fight with Golovkin. He came up just short, but he ended up building his brand off that loss. And so he was the right guy, right place, right time. Boom. So he's already fought Canelo, right? Now it just kind of feels like, and then also I should mention this, in Jacobs' last fight against Gabriel Rosado, a lot of people felt like Rosado did enough to win that fight. Or maybe it should have been a draw, and Jacobs edged it out, right? So Jacobs has had some close decisions not go his way. He's had some close decisions go his way. He's made, again, tens of millions of dollars. He's been in the title fights. He's been in there with the top guys, the two biggest brands south of heavyweight in the entire sport. He's been in the ring with both of them, right? Made tens of millions in those fights. So now it looks like John Ryder kind of got the makeup call because he got ripped off against Callum Smith. Jacobs kind of got away with one in his last fight. Business of boxing having its way. And it's no coincidence that I saw an interview, I think Boxing Scene released it, where Eddie Hearn was quoted as saying, I'm paraphrasing, but basically saying, I think it'd be awesome to have Canelo go over to the UK and fight. And he's got an opponent over there now, John Ryder, who is technically, I think, a mandatory for one of Canelo's belts anyway. So Hearn had the wheels in motion, making this, I think, an eliminator. And now Ryder's kind of set up, and you've got a fresh name. I'm not trying to say Ryder's this elite level fighter because he's not, but Jacobs already fought Canelo. It was a very good fight. It was pretty one-sided. I already mentioned Callum Smith and that whole thing. So now you got a fresh name and a fresh face, right? So if Canelo, and I hear a lot of you out there already yelling because in America, people would be like, a fight between Canelo and Ryder, who gives a shit? It's not a big fight. Tell that to the UK fans. If they, Canelo Alvarez comes to London, there's the fight poster. That's all you got to say. He can fight me. And it would sell because he's coming over to the UK, right? So if he fights John Ryder over there, it'll do numbers over there. It'll sell out, okay? So it is what it is. It's the business of boxing having its way. I feel bad that Jacobs came up short in this decision, but I can't feel too bad. Guys made tons of money, and he's benefited from right place, right time. And a couple of close scorecards have gone his way before. All right. So I don't like this. I disagree with the judges, but am I going to call this a robbery? This wasn't a title fight. This wasn't a fight where tens of millions of dollars were at stake or literally the history of boxing was changed with this decision. No. This wasn't Canelo Golovkin 1. Wasn't. It just wasn't. Had to get my Canelo Triple G reference in for the show. Also on this card, Felix Cash wins a unanimous decision over Magomed Madiev. Both of these guys are undefeated coming in. Madiev gets his first pro loss. This was a 10-round middleweight fight. Cash was down in the second and 10th and docked 1 point for holding in the 10th. So slightly controversial there. All right. So we are done with the review. Let's see. I think we got a super chat from my man Deed340. Thank you so much, Deed. He says, don't get why Charlo or Andrade didn't think about going to Japan to fight Murata. Big payday right there. Wow, dude. You're right. Why wouldn't you? That would be huge. I mean, for them, it would be a winnable fight for both of them. Big payday. But it would also be PBC working with Grandpa Bob. And they don't necessarily like each other. So I think that was kind of probably part of it. Also, Murata would much rather fight Golovkin. Much bigger name. He'll make more money. And a lot of people think Golovkin's just going to steamroll Murata. I think Murata has a real chance in that fight. Call me crazy. I think he's going to be very competitive. All right. Let's do this preview. Where's my banner? There it is. All right. Twal makes a good point here in the chat. He says Ryder is just as good as Smith or Saunders or Plant. You're probably right. There's not a whole lot of difference between the guys. And at this point, you saw he's pretty much even with Daniel Jacobs at this point in those level of guys. Is Ryder any worse than Andre and Charlo? Maybe a little bit. I do think Plant and Saunders are probably, and even Smith are probably a level above Ryder, but it's not like it's night and day. It's pretty close. Okay, this Friday, February 18th, there's a Showbox card from Orlando, Florida. Jermaine Ortiz, 14-0 with one draw, going up against Nahir Albright, who is 14-1. He lost his pro debut. It was like a majority decision. He's won 14 in a row since then, so he's almost undefeated himself. This is a 10-round lightweight fight. And then Saturday, February 19th, there's a bunch of kind of stay busy fights and step-up fights for prospects all around the world. Let me get to these real quick. Russian-Canadian heavyweight Arslanbek Makhmudov, who is 13-0, weak resume. 10 of his fights have ended in the first round, right? He's stepping up a little bit. He's going to fight Mario Shavak in Canada. So that's a slight step up for him in terms of experience. And then Kazakh heavyweight Zan Kosobutsky, 17-0. He has a weak resume too, fighting Johan Duapas in Germany. So that's a slight step up for him. So a couple of these Eastern European / Central Asian heavyweights stepping up a little bit here. We'll see how they do. And there's another card from Russia, Ekaterinburg, Russia, card loaded with a lot of Russian prospects. But there's also a lightweight eliminator fight between Russian Zaur Abdullayev, who is 14-1, his one pro loss coming to Devin Haney in 2019. He is fighting Jorge Linares. So that's an interesting fight. And then Jaime Munguia, 38-0, going up against Demetrius Ballard, who is 21-0 with one draw in a 12-round middleweight fight in Tijuana, Mexico on DAZN. All right. Then the big one, the grudge match in Manchester Arena, Manchester, United Kingdom. Ultimate Boxer putting this on. It's a Sky box office pay-per-view over in the UK. Here in America, though, it's on ESPN+. I love that. Again, that's one of the cool things about these streaming apps. You can pick up a fight like this if it's not in your country. It's part of your subscription. I love that. I could just watch this on ESPN+ if I feel like it. Amir Khan going up against Kell Brook in a 12-round welterweight fight. Yes, you have all gotten in the DeLorean, and the flux capacitor was working. You traveled back in time 10 years because that's when this fight probably could have taken place. Amir Khan is 34-5. Brook is 39-3. Khan 5'8", 71-inch reach. Brook 5'9", 69-inch reach. Let's talk about some of the X factors here. Let's talk about activity, okay? Since 2013, Amir Khan is 7-2. People talk about Khan having all these losses, but I mean, he's 7-2. He had 2 losses in the last, 9 years, 8-9 years. So I think that the tales of Khan having all these terrible losses in recent years, I think that's a little overboard. His losses have kind of been spread out pretty evenly throughout his career, from when he was at 135 all the way up to like these middleweight catchweights where he fought Canelo, right? His first fight in 2013, he fought his first fight over 140. It was 142-pound catchweight. And his very next fight in 2014 was at 147. And from that point forward, it's been 147 or Canelo weight for Amir Khan, right? So going back to 2013, he is 7-2. Now, Brook, over that same span, is 10-3. So Brook actually has more recent losses than Khan, but he's been more active, right? He's got 13 fights in that span compared to 9 fights for Khan. And of course, Brook, all these fights are at 147. A couple of them were above 147. Because remember, he went up 2 weight classes and fought Golovkin and got his His orbital bone smashed. His face was literally smashed in. Now, I talked about the activity. Let's talk about recent activity. Kell Brook had 2 fights in 2020. Amir Khan had 0, right? Amir Khan hasn't fought. Let's see. Let me make sure I got that right. Give me 1 second, everybody, as I look this up, because I want to make sure I get it right. Yes. Kell Brook had 2 fights in 2020, one just before the pandemic, one after the pandemic. And then he had 0 fights in 2021. Okay. Amir Khan hasn't fought since 2019 when he fought over in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia against Billy Dib. So neither one of these guys has been extremely active over the last year, but in recent years, over the last 2 years, Brook has been a little bit more active. Brook also, I should state, is coming off a loss, right? At least Khan's coming off a win. It was against Billy Dib. But Brook is coming off a loss, that TKO 4 loss to Terence Crawford. Both these guys lost recently to Terence Crawford. Khan has been stopped 4 times. And some of those stoppages were brutal. 1-punch knockout type stoppages, right? And what's interesting is Marius, who is it that knocked him out? Bradis Prescott. I was about to say Marius Bradis. Bradis Prescott at 135 was the first guy to beat Khan, and that was kind of a 1-punch knockout. Dropped him, right? That was, I want to say 135. And then Canelo did it at like 155, but that was brutal. He was unconscious before he hit the canvas. I was ringside for that one. It was sick. So yeah, Khan stopped 4 times, most recently by Canelo and Crawford, right? The Canelo knockout, I don't think anybody really holds that against him because Canelo is just a naturally bigger guy. He was moving up for the payday. But the Crawford loss, I mean, that's just levels, right? Crawford's special. And Khan is past his best. With Brook, he's been stopped 3 times. The knockout to Triple G, again, nobody really holds that against him. He was taking an opportunity, last-second replacement when Chris Eubank shamelessly ducked Golovkin in the last minute after signing a contract. And Brook stepped in, took the fight, payday. He lost, got knocked out. Nobody holds that against him. It wasn't a 1-punch knockout, though, right? It was a systematic kind of beatdown. Same thing with his fights with Spence and Crawford. Although the Crawford knockout, I thought it was kind of a quirky knockout that had more to do with his eye injury or orbital bone skull injury than anything else. But when you look at chins, I think clearly Brook has the stronger chin. I just wonder which guy is training more seriously and who has more left in the tank just overall as a fighter. If we're talking about chin, of course, Brook has the better chin. But let's see, his power. He's had 42 bouts. He's had 27 stoppages, right? And so that's a 64% knockout percentage. But let's look at the guys he knocks out. He knocks out, I'm talking about Kell Brook right now, Mark DeLuca, Michael Zarafa. I'm sorry, no, Zarafa went the distance. Sergey Rabchenko, Kevin Bizier, Frankie Gavin, Ionat Dan Ion. Like, those are the guys he knocks out. When he fought Sean Porter, that was a majority decision. It should have been a unanimous decision. He won 8 or 9 rounds in that fight. But when he fights guys at that level, it goes to distance. Even Matthew Hatton took him the distance. Carson Jones took him the distance. I mentioned Michael Zarafa took him the distance. So does he have that 1-punch knockout power to stop Amir Khan? I don't know, man. Terence Crawford stopped him, but again, he's special, right? Canelo Alvarez did. Of course, Canelo is a big, strong guy, and he's special. Danny Garcia stopped Khan. Lamont Peterson got a split decision. But that Danny Garcia fight, that was prime Danny Garcia, and that was at 140. So that's a little different. And then, of course, I mentioned Bradis Prescott. Man, that goes back to 2008. So that was well over a decade ago. The knockout loss to Garcia was a decade ago. That was 2012. So I don't know, man. I think that this could go several different ways, but there's something inside of me that wants to take Amir Khan in this fight. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me insane? Because I feel like everyone's saying Kell Brook is going to mop the floor with Amir Khan. I don't know, man. I still think hand speed matters. I think Khan, in terms of his athleticism, I think is still closer to his prime than Brook is. These guys are the same age. I should mention that too. Brook has had some hard living outside of the ring, and I think that ages guys. And I just wonder, he's also had reconstructive surgery twice on his face, right? So if Khan has any of that hand speed that he once had, that fluid hand speed, long punches, that reach, the accuracy, I think he wins this fight. And I don't know. I guess I'm feeling crazy this week because a lot of people that I see on Twitter are favoring Kell Brook. I'm going to go with Amir Khan, though. I'm going to go with Amir Khan in this fight. I think at some point, Brook's injuries, the surgeries, all that, it just catches up to you. And I think we saw it in the Crawford fight. We've seen it in other fights. But if this thing goes late and Khan continues to just jab the eye, boom, boom, every now and then, boom, drop a right hand on it. Maybe get a hook in there and just working that eye, I think it's going to have an effect in this fight. Let's see. We got Super Chat pledge from Ray Valero. Thank you so much, Ray. He says, hey, Mike, I believe Brook is training more serious, but I believe Khan has a little more left in the tank. Brook is more washed, in my opinion. I got Khan too. All right, so I guess I'm not crazy. I should state that a member of Amir Khan's training camp actually reached out to me. We talked a little bit over email, and he said that Khan looks great. Khan came to Terence Crawford's camp. The guy that literally knocked him out, he came to that camp, and he's working with Bomac and that whole crew. But that's a great camp. Those guys know what they're doing. And from what I was told, Khan has taken this very, very seriously as well. Very, very humble and listening to instruction and working his butt off in the gym. That's what I've been told. I have not talked to anybody in Brook's camp, though, so I don't really have any information. But I expect both of these guys to show up in tremendous shape and put on a really, really good fight. I think this one's going to be fun. What's interesting is this fight has done very good business from what I hear. Ticket sales and everything. It's going to do big numbers on pay-per-view over there. And it just shows how robust and healthy the boxing scene over in the UK is. You guys are really just crushing it over there. And you support your fighters, because I just, when I think of the American equivalent of this fight, I don't know quite what it would be, but two former champions well past their best. This just sounds like it'd be a PBC matchup here in America. And, if PBC put on a fight like this with two of their guys, this would be like almost like a Robert Guerrero versus, I don't know, I can't even think of the right name off the top of my head. But if they put something like that on Fox pay-per-view, it'd do maybe 50,000 buys, and it would definitely would not sell out in the arena. So I don't know, like you guys, your boxing scene is just way healthier than ours in regards to the casual fan being interested, because this sort of matchup is appealing to the casual sports fan over in the UK. And, I talked to one promoter last week that was just talking to me about this. And we had some talks about the business of boxing in general right now. And he's an American promoter. And, he was mentioning the scene over in the UK. And this fight really is indicative of just how healthy it is over there, man. Another super chat pledge from Sly Tendencies. Thank you so much, man. He says, a shout out to the Ring TV. If Ring was the only belt, we wouldn't have all this confusion in boxing. Shout out to you, and here's to a great year. Thank you so much. Shout out back to you. I appreciate it. Oh, Giuseppe in the chat. Yeah, he said it right here. Robert Guerrero versus Victor Ortiz. Boom. Or yeah, Nacho says Danny Garcia versus Keith Thurman. Boom. Perfect. Even Twal said the same thing. Thurman versus Garcia too would be the equivalent. Abso-freaking-lutely. And Danny Garcia's crazy daddy would start talking shit, right? And if they put that on pay-per-view and put it in, let's say, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, there's no way that sells 20,000 tickets. They would be papering that venue like crazy. And on pay-per-view, man, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 buys. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 50,000 if the name recognition is there. But that's it. Zimbia Zimbabwe said, good words, Montero. The British appetite for a grudge match is always insane. I think this will do 750 to 900 pay-per-view buys, 900,000. I think you're right. I think it will, because if you just look at the sales figures from the tickets, you guys, again, you guys have a really healthy scene over there. We do more numbers here in terms of overall money. Well, we have 330 million people, but the biggest events, generally speaking, still come to America, still come to Vegas, Los Angeles. It still comes here, okay? But a fight like this, which I would say neither of these guys are Hall of Fame worthy. Khan at one point, I think, really had a shot. Khan, I think, overall had a better career. I think that's pretty obvious, right? Especially with his amateur career and everything else. But just short maybe of a Hall of Fame career. And they're fighting years past their best. You know, they any time they have stepped up in the last 5 or so years, they've lost, and pretty decisively. So this is just two guys cashing out, and everyone knows that, right? And when I think of like when Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr. had their rematch, that fight tanked, absolutely tanked. And those two dudes are legends, right? You know, it did better than PBC's recent pay-per-views did, right? But I wonder if they have those. I wonder if I can look that up real quick, because now I'm curious. But like everybody knew what that was. That's why I bring it up. Roy Jones 2 pay-per-view buys. Let's see if I can find this real quick on the fly. No way. There's no way. I'm just looking this up. I'm reading. No. Wow. Kelly Pavlik versus Jermaine Taylor 2 only did 250,000 pay-per-view buys. Crazy. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I just found a wiki page. So Hopkins Jones 2, which took place in 2010. Okay, so here you go. Now again, I would not put Khan or Brook on the level of Hopkins or Jones. These two guys are two of the greats, especially Jones. He was an all-time great, right? And they had massive name recognition and been in massive fights. So you'd expect this to do numbers. And this was still at the tail end of like the pay-per-view era in 2010, right? And it did about 150,000 pay-per-view buys. And it was a terrible fight anyway. So there you go. Okay, that did 150. A fight like that today, 20,000, something like that. And you guys over in the UK, this is going to do big numbers. So again, that just kind of puts it all in perspective, man, of where we're at. Oh, another good one from Sal. He says, Mikey Garcia versus Danny Garcia. Don't be surprised if that shit happens one day. Let's see. Ray Valero says Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz. Now, look, if that fight happens in 2022, that fight does numbers. That does numbers. I'm telling you. You guys are going to think I'm nuts. If they marketed that fight the right way, 300, 400,000 pay-per-view buys. I honestly believe that, because they'd have to market it the right way. They'd have to get Wilder a tune-up, right? Like Ruiz just got a tune-up against Chris Arreola. So get Wilder a fight like that. And then get those two in the ring on pay-per-view, market it the right way on Fox. It'd do numbers just because of the demographics involved. I'm telling you. And it's heavyweights. It is what it is. All right. Let's jump to the phones. We are about 50 minutes in. We got a few calls here. And then we'll wrap it up, guys. Like I said, schedule's kind of bleak right now. It's going to heat up soon, though. Not to worry, all right? Not to worry. All right, 336, you're on the show. What's going on?
Yo, Mighty Mike. My head's kind of fucked up right now. I was on this amber lager from Germany chilling. My neighbor came over, told me, he just got ripped off, man. He took all his puppies and shit. Yo, he talking about taking the motherfucker out. But, yo, you got to be chill with it. That if you're going to do it right. Yo, anyway, from the top, Dre and Dog perpetrating a fraud from way back. City, oh, shit. Played the fuck out. And Mr. J.Z. Now, this Givenchy Mafia project motherfucker need to stop that shit. Now, Mr. Jacobs, I think the book has been closed.
Yeah.
Because I watched that fight, and that was the only one I saw on that card, because I had forgotten the card was coming on. The book has been closed, Mike. Danny is not Danny anymore unless he just said, fuck it, this guy ain't nobody. That's the only saving grace there. Other than that, the book has been closed. Brook, Khan, yeah, whatever. It'll be interesting just to watch it, but who they going to fight after that? They might as well just retire.
No, that's it. Yeah, they're going to retire.
Get the fuck on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's been said. I think it's good. Mike, yo, I had a great weekend. Started with a nephew of mine. My youngest brother died of prostate cancer at 50. And I just spoke to him. I hadn't seen him or spoke to him since he was like 3.
Oh, man.
Yo, and then these T-shirts showed up. I was, oh, shit. What the fuck? I was like, yo, where these come from? Man, this is Montero shit. What? And then I saw the note. Brother, let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something. You don't have to thank me for shit. We was in the shit together.
All right.
Because it doesn't matter where you were or what time you were. If shit goes off, you're going to go. So you put your ass on the line. You ain't got to thank me for shit, bro. We in this shit together.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
You understand what I'm saying? You did the shit just like me, son. Fuck that.
All right. I just felt I needed to say thank you, brother. That's all.
I understand, Mike.
I got nothing but respect.
Brother, I ain't got nothing but love for you, brother.
Same here,
You don't have to do that. You don't have to. Because you was in, man. You were in. You paid already, bro. You ain't got to pay shit. You did your shit. Very few have done that, bro.
Good point. Fair point.
Few.
Fair point.
Facts. What else? It's my birthday tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday. Man, so you got Valentine's and then your birthday the next day?
Yeah, I was out with my wife all day, and bro, a man came over and said he got ripped off. I said, I was out all day, man. So I can't tell you shit. He even got a camera. He ain't see shit. But anyway, yo, I appreciate everything. Oh, man, I'm going to be in Atlanta one day, brother. And me and you, we going to tear that mother. Yo, who is that Boston motherfucker? Because he sound hard as fuck. And yo, if he's for real, we can take
Jimmy.
this motherfucker over. Yo,
dog, yeah,
like
Jimmy's cool,
shit,
man. You'd like Jimmy.
I like his shit, man.
Yeah, you'd like Jimmy.
I like the way he go down.
Yeah.
Yo, that guy I could talk to for real.
Yeah, we probably end up in the ER. If the three of us hung out, we'd probably end up in the ER.
Nah, somebody else would end up in the fucking
Oh,
ER.
hey, yeah. That too.
Yo, Mike. Yeah, I'm so glad that I found you and I could talk to you. And yeah, man, shit, I don't know what to say. Yo, man. Shit, this is just great. I had a great weekend.
I'm happy to hear it, man. I'm happy to hear it.
Anyway, hey, man. As far as the fights, I think I covered whatever I was going to cover. And as far as the next ones, maybe fly down, speak to you again. I don't know. But I hope you had a great time with your wife. I hope you relax and forget about the nonsense. And now you're ready. You're back strong like a lion. Glossy eye job. Rastafari. All right, man.
Right.
One day I'll give you a little history about me.
All right.
Because you're probably wondering, who is this guy?
Yeah.
One day I'll give you a little history.
All right. We'll do it.
All right, Mike. Take care of yourself, man. And I'll speak to you Friday.
All right, brother. Have a great birthday tomorrow, man. Happy birthday.
All right, thank you very much. Take care, man.
Peace. Yeah, guys, that's BLT. I had to, me and my wife were talking, me and Tiffany, and I told her about BLT. I was like, man, this dude's fucking cool, man. I can't wait to meet this guy. Because my sister lives up there, not too far from where he lives. So I'm thinking maybe next time I visit my sister, maybe we'll set something up. But former military guy, and I got nothing but love and respect for military guys, especially the guys that came before me, the generations before. And Brian, was in during the Vietnam era, So we sent him a care package. We sent him some stuff just to say thank you, and just for his service and everything else. So we just felt like we needed to do it, man. The guys from that era paved the way for the guys from my era. We paved the way for the guys in the current era. So game peep game, man. Real recognize real, and that is what it is. All right. Super chat pledge from Sam. Thank you so much, Sam. He says Jacob's power is his right hand. When he goes lefty, he loses all power. Great point. And he does not engage with anyone. He won, but he let it be that close. Outstanding point, Sam. I completely forgot to bring that up, but you're right. He did go lefty. He doesn't have the same power. And there was just no reason to. He was winning the fight early on. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You're giving your opponent a chance to get back in it. So I don't know, man. He just kind of looked bored at times. And like Brian said, I think the book is closed. If Jacobs wants to come back and do one more fight or something, cool. But he's just not a guy on that level anymore. A prime Daniel Jacobs mops the floor with John Ryder. That's just, no disrespect to Ryder. That's just the truth. He would. Okay, back to the phones we go. And we've got Nacho. What's up, man?
Hey, Mike, what's going on? At first, I thought that was somebody else, but then after a few seconds, I finally realized it was BLT that was calling me.
BLT is a legend, son. Everyone loves BLT's calls,
yeah,
man.
That's pretty funny. So just real quick, like you said, the boxing schedule was super light this weekend. That fight with Jacobs and Ryder. I watched it live, and I scored it for Ryder at the beginning of it when I watched it live. I thought I had him winning that fight 8-4.
You're not alone, man. I know a few people that scored it for Ryder. I saw a few people on Twitter that are smart guys that scored it for Ryder. I just thought Jacobs edged it, but it was close.
Yeah. So then I rewatched it again later when I had a chance. And I actually ended up changing my mind. I ended up going with, I thought it should have been a draw. Because, you could make the case that Ryder won 5 or maybe even 6 rounds. But after watching it a second time, I just couldn't give him 7 or more rounds, Mike. It was just that close of a fight to me that I just didn't feel like Ryder could have gotten 7 or 8 rounds. Because I just thought that there was just too many swings and momentum on both sides that, you couldn't have scored it, either, more than 7-5. You could make the case 7-5 either way, but I couldn't. I had it 6-6 when I rewatched it again. The biggest thing, and I kind of commented to Jimmy, because I think Jimmy was on Twitter, and he was talking about the fight on Saturday when it was going on live. I just made the comment, and like after watching it a second time, I pretty much confirmed what I thought I had seen from Ryder. The biggest problem with Ryder, Mike, is that it seems like he is an unbelievably slow starter. Yeah. And then on top of that, on the inside, his inside game is awful. He allowed Jacobs to clinch way too much in the first half of that fight. The fight really started to turn once he decided that he wasn't going to allow Jacobs to clinch anymore.
Yeah.
And at that point, he was able to get off shots. Yeah. He was able to get off shots to the body. And then he started landing hooks and then left hands to the head. And it was in that 7th round where the tide finally kind of started turning his way. Because up to that point, I just thought Jacobs had literally been dominating most of the rounds. And when Ryder finally landed that really nice right hook in the 7th round and hurt him, the fight just completely turned at that point. And I thought he had a chance to take him out, but you got to give Jacobs credit. He was able to hang on and weather the storm, and he was able to get out of there and survive and then keep fighting. But I agree, Mike. I totally agree. I don't think Danny Jacobs has much left at this point. And honestly, I think he's just one of these guys that at this point he's made so much money, like you were saying, that I don't think the hunger and the fire to get hit anymore is there. And I just think he legitimately probably he's not willing to admit it just yet, but I think he's going to have to come to the realization that I think it's time for him to, move on and find something else. Like you said, I don't mind him getting one more fight if he wants to do a farewell fight in New York, in his hometown or something. But honestly, as far as him being like a top 10 or even a top 20 guy, at this point at super middle, I don't see it. I think there's a lot of guys that you can make the case could beat him right now, and he would just become a stepping stone if he hangs around. So hopefully, he took care of his money, and hopefully he finds, maybe he finds a desire to do one more fight. But I agree. I think it's time for him to go. And then as far as Ryder, some people were saying that he's actually not the mandatory to Canelo because apparently super champions for the WBA do not have mandatories. So Ryder has become the mandatory for the guy holding the regular belt.
Oh.
And the guy holding the regular belt is David Morrell.
You're right.
And I don't want to see that fight. Yeah. And I don't want to see that fight. I think Morrell mops Ryder, to be honest. I think the same way Morrell took out Fox, I think he does the same thing to Ryder. I think that's how big of a mismatch it would be. I think he ends up mopping up Ryder. So I don't think that's a good idea. And to be honest, I don't know where you go with Ryder because there's not a whole lot of guys that he can beat at this point that are above him. I mean, I was thinking maybe you could match him up against the guy that Eddie Hearn had on his card that won a few fights and then just lost recently. Carlos Gongora. He might be a legit option for Ryder.
Gongora might beat him.
Fight between those two. Yeah, but Gongora might beat him. But I think it might be a more evenly matched fight than if he was to take on like a Benavidez, a Morrell.
What about a rematch with Smith, with Callum Smith?
But Smith's at 75, Mike.
Oh, you're right.
Unless Ryder decides to go up.
Yeah, you're right.
So unless Ryder decides to go up, that's not going to happen. So, I mean, I don't know what they do with Ryder, to be honest. I hope Eddie Hearn's got a stable of guys that he can throw out there because, honestly, Ryder's not going to beat any of the guys in the top 10 for sure. And then just real quick about the fights this weekend. Like you said, just a bunch of stay busy. The really crazy one is that Russian one with, I can't even say the guy's name, the one that's fighting Linares. I'm really surprised that Linares is getting an eliminator to try to get another shot at Haney. I really thought that he would not be in an eliminator at any time, soon. But somehow they managed to get him into this, and if he wins, man, he might get another shot at Haney, which I'm just kind of like, I'd be curious to see what happens if he ends up winning that fight. And then with the Khan Brook, I think you're right, Mike. I think Brook has just gotten beat up way too much in the 3 losses that he suffered, especially the Golovkin fight. I think the Golovkin fight shaved a lot of years off his career.
Yeah.
And he got paid, but man, he took a beating in that fight, and he just has not looked the same ever since. And then Spence took whatever was left of him in that fight as well.
Yep. So
I would assume that Khan has a lot more left in the tank, and I think he'd be the more likely choice to win that fight, as long as Khan doesn't get clipped with anything that he doesn't see. I think he should win that fight against Brook. And then the Munguia Ballard, I'm a little disappointed in this fight, Mike. I really thought that Golden Boy, after the Rosado fight, would legitimately try to go big game hunting for Munguia, because I don't think the kid needs a whole lot more stay busy fights. I think the kid is ready to contend for a title shot. And this idea of giving him another stay busy fight is like just really disappointing. I hope that his next fight is not a stay busy fight, and I hope he gets a shot at somebody with a belt, because the kid doesn't need any more tune-ups. He's ready, in my opinion. He's had 4 fights at 160 to get acclimated, and he's had 3 fights with Morales. This is going to be number 4. I mean, I really don't think he needs any more stay busy. I think the kid has learned everything he's going to learn as far as tweaking his style and smoothing out the rough edges. I think the kid is ready for a shot, whether it's Charlo or Janabek or whoever it is that has a belt. I mean, I think the kid needs a shot sooner rather than later, because eventually he's not going to be able to stick around at 60 forever.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to end up going to 68 at some point. So you might want to try to get him a title shot sooner rather than later, before he outgrows the division. So, I mean, I'll be curious to see how he performs this weekend, but I think he should win. Ballard's a second-tier kind of prospect. I haven't seen anything from him that's made me think he could be a legitimate champ. He might win a paper belt one day, but he's not like a top-tier guy, in my opinion. He's just, he's just a guy. So, we'll see. So, all right, Mike, that's my call.
All right, Nacho, thanks, man.
All right.
There he goes. I see one question here from George. He says, Mike, is Tim Tszyu going to be fighting on the Charlo versus Castaño 2 card? I've been told yes. I've been told he's going to make his American debut and fight in the co-main. I don't know if that has been solidified, but that's what they were talking about doing. Yes, which I think is great because he's a mandatory for both of them. So the winner of that fight, obviously, that's who they should fight next is Tszyu. And I think that's a big fight, especially if they'd be willing to go to Australia. I don't think they would, though. But either way, if Tszyu comes here, that's still a good one. So that's what I hear. All right, let's go back to the phones. We got a bunch of calls here, guys. 570, you're on the show. I think this is Thad. What's up, Thad?
Hey, thanks, Mike. Yeah, Tim Tszyu, love Tim Tszyu. Think he's the real deal. So I'm hoping one of those two guys will fight him next, but I don't think they're going to take that kind of risk. They're going to want the easy fight after that, unification. But I digress. Speaking of the Danny Jacobs and Ryder fight, last week I mentioned, the hungrier guy, the fresher guy is Ryder. Danny, he made his money, and he was just he's a minimalist at this point, and he was doing the minimum in the beginning. First 6 rounds were dreck. Neither fighter did anything. And when you have that situation, that's an even fight. That's a 3-3-round fight because you're going to have a judge that's going to score every other round for the other guy when there's no guy imposing his will. And that's what happened. And in the last 6 rounds, Ryder won 5 rounds. And I know I was biased because I had Ryder. I took Ryder and I had the over. And I shut the fight off in the 9th round, after the 9th round, because I thought Jacobs was going to get knocked out. And I was pissing in my Cheerios because I had the over. And when I come to and it's the 11th round, I realized Ryder took the round off. That's how I knew Ryder won the fight, because I was scared to death he was going to stop Danny in the 10th round. So he won. He won the fight. He deserved it. Danny had a good career. Credit to boxing. I wish he got the Charlo fight, but what can he do? So what brings me to this weekend, and I think Linares knocks out Abdullayev. I don't think he has a chin. Losing to Devin Haney the way he did is indicative of that. Haney's pretty much feather-fisted, even though he's like 160 pounds when he comes in the ring. And I think Linares is going to pull that one out. I don't know what the odds are on that fight, but I would really I'm looking into Linares. And then finally, you mentioned what would the American equivalent be of Khan Brook. I'm going to say an extremely poor man's Uno Mas. Gilberto Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard 3. Or on the high end, an extremely poor man's Hearns Leonard 2. And it's going to go one of two ways. It's going to be a stinker and Khan's just going to outbox him, or it's going to be a slugfest, and it'll probably end in a knockout. But I think Khan on both ends gets the win because Kell Brook is a shot fighter. Golovkin, there's different stages of fractures, and his fracture that he got in the Golovkin fight was severe. His face was broken, literally. And when you have surgery, you have metal pins that are inserted, and you have scar tissue. And the level of scar tissue that develops depends on how big the break was. And his was significant. And when you have scar tissue, that breaks under stress, and it creates swelling. And that's why you see Brook always favoring that eye and afraid to take punches. And he's just in there, in my view, to cash a check. He might get brave and go out on his shield, But I don't think it ends any other way but a knockout for Khan, or Khan somehow, Brook survives the 12 and it goes to decision. But don't outsmart yourself. Khan wins this fight. This is value. He's plus 130 on the betting line, which is a steal. It's a Christmas gift. Again, Vegas 3 weeks in running are giving out free money. Okay, it all started with the Thurman fight, and then last week with Ryder, with this weekend, I should say. So I love Amir Khan, and the only X factor is, does he get caught?
Right.
Even if he does, I think he's still got a chin enough to withstand a punch from Brook, because Brook, he's not that one punch hitter quitter like you said earlier. He's not. And Amir Khan, he beat Zab Judah, right? He stopped Zab Judah, if I'm not correct. Unless I'm thinking someone else. I mean, it doesn't.
Let me check.
Amir Khan beat Zab Judah?
Yes, he did. KO 5.
Right. Yeah. So
man, that was 11 years ago.
He has a
shit.
It was. But Zab Judah was a very, very hard puncher with his left.
Yes.
Amazing left uppercut. Yeah. And Khan's speed and his ability to box, he knows how to, he knows how to parry a lot of those shots. And, he's only been really knocked out by the big punchers. And with the Canelo fight, he was outweighed by 30 pounds. He held up against Madonna barely. He beat Madonna. He got ripped off in the Levant Peterson fight. He won that fight. So don't kid yourself. Amir Khan's a very underrated fighter. That's why Floyd refused to fight the guy. So remember, there was a poll, and he won the poll. That's who the fans wanted to see Mayweather fight, and Mayweather chose Madonna, who Khan beat. He's coming off that victory over him, and he ended up outboxing Devin Alexander next. He whitewashed him. So I love this fight. Love Amir Khan to win this fight, either by stinker, by decision, or he stops Kell Brook by the 7th. Yeah. So I don't know if people are thinking about getting on that betting train, but just be very, very careful here if you're looking at the Kell Brook side, because I know he's the favorite, but if that line drops and it becomes a pick'em, you know the right side is Khan. So just take that into consideration. And there's one other thing, Mike, that kind of surprised me, because everyone knows Clarissa Shields. She's like in America, she calls herself the GOAT and all that other crap. The bloviating about how great she is and all. Well, the odds makers came out and put the lines out for that fight. I want you to take a guess what the line is on that fight, the betting line.
Well, her and
between
Marshall?
her and Savannah Marshall.
I would say Marshall maybe might be the early favorite.
Well, you're sort of right. It's a pick'em fight, but based on popularity and how much eyes are on somebody, I thought that was pretty shocking. I thought they would at least start Shields out at 2.5 to 1 favorite, but it's a pick'em, which tells me Savannah Marshall's the right side. And a commenter I really respect. Last week when I was talking to you, he said, "Well, Christina Hammer, she beat Christina Hammer." Trust me, Savannah Marshall is not Christina Hammer.
No,
Christina Hammer is a professional model who is, fighting Drek at 160 for a lot of those years. Decent champion, okay, for that time period. But Savannah Marshall's a real fighter. She's one of the only women fighters that actually puts her body weight behind her punch and uses her legs and torques and throws for power. And that's going to be a major way this fight goes, because Clarissa Shields, she doesn't have the greatest chin, and her mindset's not the greatest, and she's probably not going to engage. So that fight is right now definitely going to Savannah Marshall as of right now. And the Vegas judges, the Vegas lines makers know what they're doing. I'm just very shocked that they put it at a pick'em, and we'll see. But again, that's like buyer beware on that fight. And with that, I'll let you go. And if you have any news on the Dave Tiberi interview, if you end up getting in touch with him or whatnot, also, I'd like to hear about that. So have a good night, Mike. Thanks.
You too, brother.
Calling.
Good stuff, man.
Will do. All right, bye.
All right, let's we got a couple more here. Let's knock these out, guys. Let's knock these out. We got 818. You're on the show.
Hey, Mike. It's good to hear from you back. Now it's episode 301, so we're rolling. I wanted to ask about Bud Crawford. Now he's a free agent, and I've been hearing a lot of promoters, specifically Eddie Hearn, saying, you should probably sign with PBC because he can't get him fights. Obviously, Bob Arum had a difficult problem getting him any quality fights. This is my opinion on what he should do, and take it how you want, but I really believe the best option for him is to sign with Mayweather. I mean, he could be that middleman between him and Bud is not the guy who loves to promote his own fights. He kind of just lets things go with the flow, but I think that would be the best option for him to work a deal to get those type of fights. So I wanted to hear your opinion on that, if that would be a good move for him, or what move do you think Bud should do, or do one-off fights? I mean,
I think honestly, it depends on what Bud wants to do. If Bud wants the Spence fight, or Ugas, if he beats Spence, Bud's going to have to sign with PBC. They're not going to do one-off deals with him. He's not a big enough name. They'll do one-off deals with Canelo because, that he's a huge name. But the only place he can go to get the Spence fight or, that total unification at 47 is with PBC. Even if he wants to move up to 154, the unified champion is going to be a PBC fighter very soon there. So I just think that if I were him and I were advising his career, that's where I'd go. If he wants to get overpaid and fight weak opposition and kind of travel around the world doing that, he could sign with Eddie Hearn in a match room. But if he wants the top fights, he's got to sign with PBC. Now, Mayweather is interesting. I don't know what advantage there would be to specifically signing with Floyd, because outside of Gervonta Davis, Floyd, his promotional track record is not very good. You know what I'm saying? Is a negotiator or something, fine. Get him involved, fine. But if Crawford signs a 3-fight deal with PBC, he'll get the fights he wants. It's just the only way.
Yeah, it's sad how, he could be waiting on the shelf for so long, and possibly, you're going to wait on a possible Thurman fight if you can get it. That's if. And then you're also waiting for Ugas and Spence. So, I mean, how long are we going to see Bud Crawford, on the shelf? I mean, he's 35 now. So
yeah,
you don't want to be off too long. It's that, or, either take a fight. I mean, this is preposterous to take a fight at a catch weight or something, or 47. It's just not a lot of options for him, and it's sad because he's such a great fighter. I love watching him. So,
he's a great fighter. Yeah, I'm with you. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch, but he's also kind of delusional, dude. He doesn't understand his market value and where he is in the sport. He is going to have to make concessions. And he is the B-side financially against Errol Spence. Not that Errol Spence is a big star, because he's not. And I think Crawford's a better fighter than him. But in terms of if he wants that fight, he has to accept that Spence is going to make more money, and he has to sign with PBC. Yep. It's the only way it happens.
I totally agree. But anyway, that's all my questions, Mike. And I'm actually on the PayPal, going to donate to your show. So I appreciate
Thank you so much, man.
And good luck. Yeah, good luck with the rest of the year.
Thanks a lot, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah, man. Terence Crawford, one of my favorite fighters to watch. But man, his career, and people put it all on Top Rank. No one knew who the hell Terence Crawford was. PBC, none of these other guys wanted him coming out of the amateurs. His first 10 or so fights, he was fighting on undercards and small shows and in the middle of nowhere. Top Rank took him, built him, and made him the fighter of the year and a 3-division champion, undisputed champion at 140. So for all the flaws that Top Rank has and Bob Arum, some of the dumb things he said, they made Terence Crawford. And now Crawford's going to realize very, very soon what his true market value is. he'll find out. It's going to find out the hard way. All right, back to the phones to go. 317. You're on the show. I think this is Jack. Is this Jack?
Yeah, what's up, Mike?
What's up, man? Long time no talk, Jack. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good. It's been a long time. Congrats on 300 episodes. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
And dude, I don't know if you've talked about it, but the verification on Twitter, that's a big deal, especially in the boxing community. Like, I don't know any other boxing media member besides like Dan Raphael that have that.
Yeah, I did. That kind of surprised me. It kind of came out of nowhere. I haven't mentioned it. I totally forgot about it, but I appreciate it, man. Yeah, Twitter verified me, and I don't know if Instagram and Facebook will, but they say once Twitter does, some of the other ones usually do. I guess I'm moving on up in the world. So,
dude, like, I know it may sound silly, but you legit are.
Thanks, man.
Like, it may seem something small, but no, it's actually like a pretty big deal being verified. But I mean, it's basically a sign that like other people are making accounts, like fake accounts of yours, and
oh yeah, they've done that. Well, yeah, I get people doing that, and they post memes about me and all this kind of shit. So you're right. Maybe that's why. I didn't even think about that, but I think you're right, man. Maybe that's why they did it.
Yeah, and I wanted to comment on mostly the fights that are happening this week. The last guy said Khan is going to beat Kell Brook. Dude, you want to know what I've been thinking about? Man, prime Kell Brook before Golovkin was such a good fighter. Like the Sean Porter one, man.
He was the best welterweight in the world at that time.
No, yeah, he beat Sean Porter better than anyone else, in my opinion, excluding well, not even. I don't know if I would exclude Terence Crawford, because that Crawford Porter fight was really close the whole way through, and like Brook kind of just dominated the whole way. And man, he had a great chin, great boxing skills. It was a shame what he did with Golovkin, because man, he was a great fighter.
Yeah, you're right. He really was. I thought at the time the top welterweight in the world. I was there for that fight between him and Porter, and I was very surprised, and I was very impressed, and I was like, damn, this dude's legit. And no way were any of those other PBC guys ever going to fight him. No way. He would have been avoided, but maybe we could have got Brook and Crawford early on. But yeah, Triple G just ruined him, dude. Just ruined him.
Yeah, and I can't even emphasize how good his chin was, because Triple G was hitting him with, if you didn't know, like Triple G's best punch, his strongest punch is his overhand left from the southpaw stance when he's like switching. Knocked out Vanes Martirosyan, knocked out Steve Rolls. I was there for that. Dude, and what do you call it? Kell Brook ate it. And if you look at Kell Brook's career, excluding taking knees, he's never been dropped. Like even Terence Crawford hit him in the eye with like a perfect jab, and Kell Brook just had no clue what was going on. Like he didn't go down; he was just on his feet, like getting pummeled because he didn't know what was going on. Because he has a really good chin, but his eyes are like the issue. Like, did you remember that it was a shot right to the eye?
I remember that knockout. It was like awkward, and you could tell like his senses, like his brain got scrambled. And I think that I think it was Thad that was talking about like scar tissue, pins in his face. And if you hit that the right way, man, that could send like a shockwave. And I think that's what happened. So what happens if Khan can catch him with something like that? Not that Khan's as good as Crawford, but Khan does have hand speed, and he's got long ass arms. So it is possible he could connect, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if Khan can hurt him, even though, like, Khan just doesn't have, I mean, he has okay power, like, good. I'd give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. But Crawford, Spence, Golovkin, those guys all actually, like, hit, like, really fucking hard. Like, Crawford, when he puts his ass in the shots and really, like, sets them up, dude, he hit really hard.
Yeah, and he's accurate, and he's another guy with long arms, and he gets every inch of his length when he throws punches. He extends. So Crawford his punches are beautiful, and he has underrated power. And then Golovkin, yeah, at that time, man, Golovkin was just crushing everybody. So when I couldn't believe Brook fought him, but he just hasn't been the same since then. It just, when you get your face broken, that's what happens.
All right, so I got some spaghetti, your personal favorite, coming up in a second. And if I read that's your favorite.
Well, enjoy your spaghetti, man. You got some meatballs on there or what? What's up?
No. I was about to say, I want to say one more thing before I.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So Bivol and Canelo, I know a lot of people are saying that like people are talking about Triple G and Canelo if Canelo beats Bivol. Dude, I'm telling you, like, that's such a horrible style matchup for Canelo. I see no way in hell he beats Bivol. Because if you look at, like, real quick, Mike, can you list me Canelo's weaknesses? Like, things that Canelo's not good at, or like he has trouble avoiding. Can you list them real quick? Think about it.
I think his biggest weakness, he still has trouble with movers. He isn't the fleetest of foot. And sometimes height could be an issue for him if the right fighter knows how to use their length. But a lot of the weaknesses he had 5-6 years ago, he has improved them. He has gotten better with it. But against Bivol, people are forgetting, man, at 75, Bivol's a naturally bigger, stronger guy, and Bivol's footwork is good. Here's the one thing about Bivol's footwork, though. He gets in and out real good, but the side-to-side movement isn't always there. That's the one thing. But you're big on Bivol in this fight, right? You think Bivol's going to win this fight clearly.
Well, just listen, hear me out real quick. So I definitely think Bivol has pop. Like, I think he can pop. Like, even though he's, like, cautious, dude, personally, I think Canelo has trouble with jabs. He gets lazy and doesn't try to avoid jabs. Would you agree with that?
What Canelo does is he looks past your jab and focuses on the rights and the left hooks. He focuses on the power punches. He don't mind taking a jab, and he'll kind of move with it. Yeah. He wants to see your right hand coming so he can roll with it, things like that. That's just his style.
Would you agree that Bivol's gonna, if this fight does officially happen, that Bivol's gonna jab his head off a lot of the time?
I think that'd be the smart play, to stay way, way back, keep your head off the line and jab the shit out of him. And then when he comes in, try to catch him with uppercuts, 45s, things like that. Bivol's just got to keep distance. Guys like Saunders and Smith were just not able to keep their distance with Canelo and just backed up. And Canelo just kind of walked him down. With Bivol, he can land some shots and get off to the side and keep Canelo at range. I think he could really, really have a good chance.
Yeah, and also the combinations. Bivol was a fantastic combination puncher. And you look at like the Golovkin fights or the Lara fights, the big shots that Canelo gets hit with are like combination punches. And I don't know if you remember last 10 seconds of the Joe Smith Bivol fight, Bivol hurt him with like a really good combination. He's just like picture perfect with his combinations. I think Canelo has a weakness to like really good combination punchers, and just the footwork mainly. Like Bivol has fantastic footwork, like absolutely amazing. He's able to move in and out all with his feet, and I think he's going to be way too quick for Canelo. Like if you look at Lara, Mayweather, those guys had great footwork and they caused him trouble. And I think Bivol has amazing footwork, and he's just he's the heavier version of them. And he has a good jab, good combinations. He has high conditioning. Dude, Michael, I'm telling you, like, there's some fights where I say I'm 100% positive, and I'm like, Usyk Joshua was the last fight I said. I told everyone Usyk's going to win. Michael, I'm telling you right here, right now, if Dimitri Bivol fights Canelo, Canelo's going to lose. Canelo will lose, clearly.
Yeah, on the record.
I'm telling you that right now.
Hey, you're calling it now. So you get all the credit and all the props if Bivol wins, because I gotta say, you're the only guy that's saying this right now. Everyone says Canelo's gonna mop the floor with him. People in the chat are saying that TJ in the chat said Joe Smith hurt Bivol, and that's true. And a lot of people feel that once Joe Smith hurt Bivol, he hasn't been the same guy. So if Bivol wins this fight, You called it.
What do you think? What's your prediction for that fight if it happens? You probably think Canelo will slightly edge it. You said that, right?
Yeah, right now I think that Canelo, if you look at Bivol's last few performances, he hasn't fought top opposition. He hasn't looked great. He seems to have, I don't know if he's just been taking it easy and getting rounds in, or he's lost a little steam on the fastball. I don't know. But just look at where these two guys are at right now. I think Canelo can catch Bivol moving backwards with a looping overhand right or a looping hook. I think he'll go down to the body. Don't get me wrong. I like the fight. I think Bivol is going to give him a much tougher fight than the guys at 68 did. But I favor Canelo by decision at this point, maybe even late stoppage. I'm going to go decision, though.
Interesting. All right, man. My food's here. So, yeah, I don't know why I didn't. I guess I've kind of just been busy, so I haven't had a lot of time to do stuff. But, yeah, man, I definitely should come back in and check in on the show because, man, I miss doing this.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time. Well, enjoy your dinner, bro, and call back in, man.
Hell yeah. Take it easy, Mike. Have a good night.
You too, bro. All right. That's it, guys. We got all the calls in. So a couple of you guys were on and dropped off. TJ said, Mike, next time I'll call in. Yeah, call in, TJ. You had some good comments here in the chat. I agree with you. I think right now Canelo has the momentum. He's the aggressor. He's learned to stalk forward against tall guys. And I think that he's going to do that against Bivol. All that being said, if Bivol can find the form he had in most of that fight against Joe Smith, against Pascal, against Barrera, even some of the stuff he showed against Chilemba, he has a really good chance against Canelo. Has he been playing possum this whole time? Has he been taking it easy so that one of these big names will give him a fight? Or is he just not the same guy he was a few years back? Did the Joe Smith fight change him? Canelo will answer those questions for us. All right, guys. Great show. And we'll do it Friday on my channel. Friday wrap-up is back this Friday, 5 o'clock. All right? So we'll chop it up after we see Khan and Brook hit the scales. All right, guys. Have a good one. Happy Valentine's Day. Congratulations, LA Rams. Peace.